Sabnu Ji Ayanu. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining me today to honor this new year of Vaisakhi. I'm Teresa Singh. In 2017, the Sikhlens Film Festival premiered my documentary called A Table for 60,000. It's the story of Guru Ka Langar, the free community kitchen, served every day at Harmandir Sahib, otherwise known as the Golden Temple, in northern India. I'd like to share some of my background, some background about Vaisakhi, and how my husband, Jaspreet Singh, and I came to create this documentary. My first trip to India was in 1979. I was very excited and a little nervous to be meeting Jaspreet's parents for the first time. And as soon as I landed at the Delhi airport, the first thing we did was to make a beeline to the largest Sikh temple in Delhi, the Gurdwara Bangla Sahib. I vividly recall that January morning, the atmosphere of the Gurdwara complex, the cool touch of marble beneath my bare feet, the soothing sounds of kirtan wafting through the air, and the humble feeling as I bowed before the Sikh holy book, the Sri Guru Granth Sahib. And as we turned to leave the Gurdwara complex, I can still remember the warmth of the buttery sweet delicacy placed into my cupped hands. This delicacy, this kara prasad, is a gift from a shared pot offered to all. What a delicious flavor to welcome me to these new surroundings. Those first impressions, the fact that the first thing my future in-laws did was to offer their gratitude for my safe arrival from the long journey across the world, helped me understand their deep faith. And this experience helped me see how perfectly a Sikh Gurdwara conveys a sense of welcoming and acceptance. To me, that warm handful of kara prasad represents Ik Onkar, the Sikh concept of the oneness of all. In the early years of raising our two sons as Sikhs in the US, it was often challenging because of the lack of role models and the limited resources available to us. So we thought perhaps we could do something to begin to fill the gaps, to kind of pepper the world with more inclusive stories, stories which include images of Sikhs and Sikh children. We hope these efforts could also help educate those not familiar with Sikhi. Sikhi, a word that means constant learner, one who's in search of truth. So I used my photography and design skills, and Jaspreet wrote and gave talks to the community, and together we self-published books and pamphlets on Sikhi. Style of the Lion, the Sikhs, a glimpse of the Sikh which we shared with Gurdwaras. One publication very dear to us is a book called Gursharan Kaur's Journey, the story of my inspiring mother-in-law, who was an educator. More recently, we've hosted a YouTube channel called Sikhs Everywhere. So far, we've created over 200 videos with a talented team of teachers, musicians, and students that we hired in Punjab. Our projects on Sikhs Everywhere include Punjabi language tutorials, sacred Sikh music instruction, Punjabi festivals and dances, videos on Sikh life, which explores Sikh concepts through interviews with singers, farmers, and people on the street. There are animated shorts of Guru Nanak Dev Ji's travels, and the documentary A Table for 60,000 that I filmed, edited, and narrated. There are travelogues of historically significant cities like Amritsar, Paonta Sahib, and Anandpur Sahib, and the magnificent Gurdwara atop the Himalayas called Hemkund Sahib. Our family's pilgrimage to Hemkund Sahib for the first time a few years ago was a highlight of our lives. Trekking up the mountains while hearing live kirtan, music, and having warm Kara Prasad at 15,000 feet is an incredible experience. A very popular playlist on our channel is on teaching the fundamentals of the Sikh martial art called Gatka. Gatka was popularized by the 10th Guru and uses many weapons, the primary which is the sword. These videos were filmed in beautiful outdoor settings in the holy city of Amritsar, the home of the Golden Temple. We were fortunate to have Sardar Sarbjit Singh Dev, who is an all-India Gatka champion, to prepare clear step-by-step instructions of Gatka. He even gave us a few lessons on how to wield the sword and spin the chakra, and his group put on a special performance for our students when we were all in Amritsar. We've also developed a language learning app called Encore Language Learning. One of the languages is Punjabi. It's available on the App Store, and we're working on the Android version. You can read more about it on our website, gourmentor.com. This brings me to the significance of the occasion of Vaisakhi. The word Vaisakhi in English means beginning of spring. Springtime conjures feelings of hope, of new beginnings, of renewed energy, of earth offering its abundance. So it's fitting that 322 years ago, Guru Gobind Singh Ji chose this time of year to transform the Sikhs. Today, every Sikh child learns the story of the birth of the Khalsa, the formal order of committed Sikhs. The Khalsa was born on that Vaisakhi day, that beginning of spring, that day of transformation. Guru Gobind Singh Ji filled his followers with love for freedom and democratic ideals. Through his actions, he dispelled fear of standing up against tyranny. This occurred 75 years before the American Revolution, before the famous motto, "Give me liberty or give me death." Guru Gobind Singh Ji was certainly way ahead of his time. It's the Sikh duty to fight for freedom for all, even those whose backgrounds and beliefs are very different from one's own. The Sikh belief in equality is not mere words. Sikhs have a long history of promoting civil rights, including labor rights. During the world wars and India's independence, Sikhs have taken a lead in fighting to liberate victims of exploitation, discriminations, and injustice. My father-in-law, Sardar Gurcharan Singh, served during World War II. He volunteered to fight alongside British soldiers to liberate the free world. While serving, he also stood up against the unequal treatment of Indian soldiers under colonial rule. He stood true to his beliefs that all are one. During his service in the Indian British Army, he was sentenced to 1 year hard labor for his resistance. The essential Sikh concept of kar seva, doing good deeds, elevates labor. Kar seva gives dignity to labor. Kar seva is an expression of spirituality, with the practice of langar, free community kitchen, being the touchstone. This means that the Sikh community is always ready to serve and offer help in times of need. Across the world, Sikh brothers and sisters have rallied to provide help during the recent pandemic, figuring out new ways to feed thousands with social distancing restrictions. In my home state of California, for example, the Khalsa Care Foundation Gurdwara stepped up its regular meal sharing program by partnering with the city of LA. Volunteers from the surrounding community joined the efforts with enthusiasm. Within 3 months, over 200,000 free hot meals were prepared and served, and many were delivered, and the efforts continue. Among the many, many good works of the international human rights nonprofit Khalsa Aid, Sikh volunteers in the UK brought meals to stranded truckers who were stuck at the border during the pandemic. Right after that, the volunteers went on to assist flood victims. Khalsa Aid has recently been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize for its service to humanity. A well-deserved honor. Another remarkable testament to Sikh brothers and sisters standing up for a cause is the farmers' protest that began outside New Delhi in November of 2020 to speak out against new laws that would affect farmers and food distribution. It's the largest and longest organized protest yet in recorded history. A majority of the farmers who came to protest are Sikhs from Punjab. Wherever there is Sikh community, there is langar. I find it interesting that even in India, many people are unaware of the Sikh concept of langar, the Sikh practice of langar. Indian journalists from Delhi itself, reporting from the protest site, were surprised to be offered free hot meals and tea by protesting farmers. These protesters, these farmers, were away from their homes, camping out on the streets in their trucks, yet they were not only feeding themselves, they were also nourishing others. This is a unique kind of protest. What keeps them going? What sustains these grand efforts of Sikh-led groups? Vaisakhi in 1699 crystallized the efforts and the teachings of the 10 Gurus. Guru Gobind Singh Ji motivated his Sikhs by daring them to speak up and stand out, to cast aside their caste names and take on their new identity. Sikh men became Singh, lions. Sikh women became Kaur, princesses. Guru Gobind Singh Ji also presented a new uniform of the Sikh, the princely turban and the 5 symbols, which signaled their commitment to the Khalsa ideals. This commitment is a big reason that the practice of seva remains viable today. Langar has been a daily practice at Harmandir Sahib in India for over 400 years. 100,000 people are fed daily through mostly volunteer efforts. That's over 36 million meals per year. It makes sense to study langar as a model for addressing the global hunger challenge. During our research for the film, we made several trips to Harmandir Sahib to delve into the practical aspects of langar. We spoke with the administration and gained permission to film on the site, but with no tripods or no external lighting allowed. I filmed the entire process of langar. The food is vegetarian, which I think makes a big difference in how the process is so open and welcoming, and volunteers can participate whenever they like. We interviewed chefs and volunteers who regularly showed up to do seva. We also interviewed the American students who were with us during a course that Jasprit designed through the University of Michigan's Global Education Program. We asked questions like, where does the food come from? How do the chefs know how much to cook? How are the meals served so quickly? 3,000 meals served and eaten in 20 minutes. What drives people to volunteer? So, we tried to figure out what makes langar such a success. What are the best practices? Could these practices be used in other settings? Through the university course, we brought students to Amritsar for 1 month on 2 separate occasions. It was important that the students not view this as a service trip where they're offering help to those in need. No, rather to look at langar as a sustainable model worth knowing more about. The students experienced the entire cycle of langar, literally from the ground up. They gathered food from the farmers' markets and helped carry heavy sacks of grains, chilies, and garlic. They sat down among hundreds of volunteers to peel mountains of potatoes. They exercised their muscles, stirring giant cauldrons of lentils. They served the people sitting in rows. They also sat on the floor and enjoyed their langar meals with others. And they stood shoulder to shoulder, washing the steel dishes afterwards. They were able to realize an important lesson about seva, that it's not only a tool to help others, it also creates a great feeling, a feeling of belonging to a community. You're among like-minded people who welcome you, who encourage you to serve, and who accept you where you are. And the wonderful thing is that this great feeling creates a deep satisfaction within. So we did tease out 10 best practices, which are described at the end of the film. With these examples of seva in mind, I hope you take the time to view A Table for 60,000. And I'll take some questions afterwards.
इन्हीं की कृपा के सजे हम हैं नहीं मुँह से गरीब करोड़ परे नहीं मुँह से गरीब करोड़ परे इन्हीं की कृपा के सजे हम हैं नहीं मुँह से गरीब करोड़ परे नहीं मुँह से गरीब करोड़ परे इन्हीं की कृपा
For over 400 years, Harmandir Sahib has been offering free meals every day to anyone. These days, 60,000 meals are served daily. This is the story about the tradition of Guru Ka Langar, free community kitchen, at the Golden Temple in Amritsar, India. This centuries-old tradition reveals lessons about modern issues of sustainable nourishment, community building, and individual purpose.
Walked into the Golden Temple, there was such an overwhelming ambiance of like peace, and then when we walked into the langar, the food was very delicious, very hot and very fulfilling, and I really enjoyed just seeing everybody here working together. And at first I thought it would be overwhelming because there's so many people, but it was so organized and so well put together, and I really enjoyed my first experience.
Out here, not gonna lie, I'm pretty overwhelmed. But as soon as I sat down with my food, it was like calm. And like it's just you eating, like that's all it is. Food was really good, and I'm really excited to be the one serving the food soon. So positive experience for sure.
This was unbelievable. I've never seen anything like this. I was just recently at the wall in Jerusalem, and I thought that was overwhelming. This is really overwhelming, but in the most positive way. Everyone sitting together, when people come together, it kind of makes you want to tear up for a common cause. I love it.
आओ जी तुम आओ हमारे आओ जी तुम आओ हमारे हर जस सर्वन सुनावड़ा तुद आवत
Sri Harmandir Sahib, home of the world's largest and longest running community kitchen, offers a spectacularly beautiful and serene space. This captivating place, a merging of human artistry and nature's unique setting, can be entered from all directions, symbolizing its open arms, and represents an independent Sikh school of architecture in India's history. While this is a sacred Sikh space with deep historical and spiritual significance, people of all faiths and of no particular faith are welcome. The threshold of entering the Golden Temple is refreshingly barrier-free. No tickets to purchase or luggage checks. Before entering, everyone takes off their footwear. There are shoe rooms near each entrance. Your shoes are received with love and respect as you hand them to the volunteer for safekeeping. The head is covered in a show of respect. Colorful scarves can be taken from the entrance if you so need. The simple act of washing the hands and rinsing the feet is a reminder. These actions prepare us to cleanse our minds as we enter this space and reflect on our infinite potential. The guards are present to ensure that all visitors are able to enjoy this place of reverence. Simran Seva are two pillars of the Sikh faith, established by Guru Nanak Dev Ji, the first Sikh Guru, more than 500 years ago. Simran represents meditating and reflecting on your uniqueness and on your connection to the entire universe. Also fundamental is to express spirituality through Seva. At first glance, Seva is volunteer service for friends and strangers. At a deeper level, Seva is the sustenance that forms a community and breaks down barriers. And at its deepest level, Seva is a tool to express and enhance one's own true worth. The harmony between the material world and the spiritual world is reflected in the early morning ceremony of Palki Sahib. Devotees anticipate the arrival of the holy book carried on a decorated throne from its nighttime resting place to inside the Golden Temple. The excitement generated resembles a call to action, which mobilizes devotees to perform the Herculean tasks that are accomplished here each day. A visitor can enter the inner sanctum where the sacred book, called Sri Guru Granth Sahib, presides from before dawn to late evening. Beginning with the core message called Mool Mantar, the holy book captures the essence of Sikh faith. Underlying this vast and complex universe is one source, one truth.
Har kirtan sune, har kirtan gaave. तिस जन दुख निकटे नहीं आवे तिस जन दुख निकटे नहीं आवे
Kirtan, sacred music, represents the spiritual poetry of Sikh gurus as well as Hindu and Muslim enlightened spirits. For 19 hours a day, live kirtan is performed by gifted ragis, musicians. The vocals and melodies from the sacred book can be heard all around the complex and forms the breath that drives the focused efforts at Sri Harmandir Sahib.
Today we're doing shoe polishing seva, and we're all in like in a room full of shoes and then in like a line. And we're each given 2 brushes, one for like the black shoes, one for the brown one. So I think it was a really great experience. I was like running very efficiently with everyone just doing a shoe real quick and then passing it to the next person. And the man next to me was saying some really great things. He was like telling me that don't think of it like you're polishing people's shoes. think of these shoes as gods. Like, think of the seva. You're not doing seva for specific people. You're doing it for like a greater being. And he's talking about how lucky we are that we are in such a place that we are given the opportunity to do this kind of seva. So I think it's a really interesting way of thinking, and it just like really got me thinking about it further. So I think it was a great experience today.
ਤਿਸ ਜਨ ਦੂਖ ਨਿਕਟੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਵੈ।
आवो मीत प्यारे मंगल गावो नारे मंगल गावो नारे आवो।
The third Guru, Amar Das, formalized the institution of langar, which is carried out at every Sikh Gurdwara in the world. A revolutionary idea in the caste, gender, and class-dominated society of 16th century India, uniting people to sit together in rows without discrimination or consideration of rank or position to share a meal, is the brilliance of langar. A typical meal includes flatbread, lentils and vegetables spiced to perfection, rice, and kheer, rice pudding. Lentils and grains form a complete source of protein for this vegetarian meal. But more than just nutrition, Guru Ka Langar transcends food. It breaks barriers and allows us to feel a part of the universal family. The practices serve as a role model for today's challenges of good nutrition, community building, and sustainable living. To organize a fresh-cooked, delicious, nutritious hot meal for 60,000 people takes commitment, enthusiasm, and efficiency under what may appear to be chaotic conditions. It takes smart planning and an open heart. In the early morning hours before 8 a.m., tea and biscuits are served. Full langar service begins at 8 a.m. and continues throughout the day and into the night until about 1 o'clock in the morning. The chai, the milky sweet tea, continues to be available at any time. As people walk towards the langar hall, volunteers hand them a steel plate, a spoon, and a bowl. On a very busy day, people wait outside the hall. Once the doors open, volunteers guide the crowd down neat rows of runners placed on the floor. Each person sits with legs crossed side by side on the runners. Everyone is equalized. Volunteers assist anyone in need of a place to sit down. The meals are served in shifts of about 20 minutes. Helpers bring baskets of flatbread covered in a cloth to stay warm. Buckets of lentils, rice, vegetables, salad, and sweets are carried up and down each row, and a generous serving is offered to each visitor. You're welcome to have seconds or to skip any dish that you choose. The vegetables on the menu vary depending upon the season. The combination of spices and slow cooking brings out amazing flavors and leaves you satisfied and comforted. When finished eating, carry your empty plate to the dishwashing area. The floors of the langar hall are swiftly cleaned and ready to accept a new group. Many stay on to serve the next group. The tradition of langar addresses not only the issue of hunger for food, but also nourishes the spirit by working together and finding our place in the world. All are welcome at Harmandir Sahib. How much food does it take to prepare 60,000 nutritional and sustainable vegetarian meals each day in one location? Here's what's needed to feed so many people. Fresh produce, 15,000 pounds. Lentils, more than 2,500 pounds. Rice, also over 2,500 pounds. Wheat, 12,000 pounds. Wheat is used in abundance to make the flatbreads for the meals, and almost every visitor receives a special wheat dessert called khara prasad. On typical days, almost 250,000 people can receive this sweet, which is made from roasted wheat, butter, and sugar. About 4,400 pounds of ghee, also called clarified butter, is needed. Ghee is used for cooking and is also brushed onto the flatbread to keep it fresh and delicious. And milk. Over 1,200 gallons of milk is used to make the milky chai and the rice pudding. 1,500 pounds of sugar and 450 pounds of tea leaves are also needed each day for the chai. Another 2,500 pounds of sugar are needed for khara prasad. How is all this food procured? The sustainability of this centuries-old tradition is propelled by contributions from many sources. Devotees give monetary donations. Some sponsor langar for the entire day. Others purchase food and donate it. Local farmers may donate a portion of their crops. All contributions are duly recorded, and no special langar privileges are bestowed upon the donor. Fresh produce arrives daily and must be prepared soon after. Volunteers are at the ready to chop, peel, clean, and organize the harvest. The logistics are not as challenging for grains and rice, which can be stored for several months. The fresh produce comes from several markets called sabzi mandi around Amritsar. Farmers start to bring their fresh harvest in around 4 a.m., and by 7 a.m. the market is already quite lively. Most produce comes from Punjab, a rich agricultural state in India, as well as from other states via trucks and trains. The focus is on freshness and quality of the produce, and not on the prettiness or the neat packaging look of the food. This keeps the price down and the waste minimal. The average cost of produce is about 10 cents per pound. Ginger, garlic, and onions are needed year-long for vegetable and lentil dishes. The vegetable dishes served for langar depend upon the season. Here is a typical grain market in Amritsar. For the langar, about half the lentils are purchased, while the rest are donated by the community. Donated lentils are sorted and cleaned separately. The process of gathering the food for Guru Ka Langar works smoothly based on these essential attitudes. No donation is too small. Even a sack of radishes can be creatively incorporated into the meal. No special privileges are given to people who give larger donations. People donate according to their abilities and their passion. These flexible and practical attitudes are key lessons for living sustainably on this planet.
तन तन हमारे पाग कर आया पेड़ मेरा कर आया पेड़ मेरा तन तन हमारे पाग कर आया.
With truckloads of produce arriving daily and stores of raw lentils and grains waiting to nourish the thousands who partake in Guru Ka Langar, who does the prep work for this massive cooking endeavor? It's accomplished through community efforts motivated by the pleasure of seva. Of 2,000 total employees at Harmandir Sahib, about 470 are employed for langar. The professional chefs employed by Sri Harmandir Sahib Kitchen oversee the Guru Ka Langar preparation. Volunteers arriving daily from local and distant communities prepare the harvest. These volunteer efforts, combined with the highly efficient procurement system, creates nutritious and delicious meals for about 25 cents per meal. Harmandir Sahib offers enormous opportunities for community service for anyone, young or old, strong or with physical limitations. Anyone can join in and participate for as long as desired. Many of the volunteers come as a family. Neighbors from villages and towns nearby arrive in groups. People come from across the globe especially to do seva here. Head volunteers are present to oversee the general flow of work. There's no sign-up sheet for duty. Before participating in any Langar Seva, a volunteer washes his or her hands, looks for an open spot on the covered floor, and joins in. Naturally antibacterial cutting boards from tree trunks are used for chopping produce. Communal knives are available for peeling or chopping. Even children can be seen participating under adult supervision. Frequent volunteers are happy to give tips and guidance to the novice. Sitting side by side, cutting, peeling, and chopping encourages sharing of skills, removes barriers of language, and harnesses the energy of the group. Even those who have never worked in a kitchen can feel a sense of accomplishment within a short period of time. A small batch of freshly chopped onions, a bowl full of peeled garlic cloves, a plate full of chopped ginger all contribute to the meals of thousands of people. The ease of doing volunteer service is a part of its success. To do seva is to share with the community, in happiness to spread the joy, and in sorrow to lighten the burden.
So today I worked in cutting melons, and in the beginning I didn't know how to cut them, and I didn't know how to communicate with them that I didn't know, so I made a couple of hand gestures, and they changed the whole process. So one girl started peeling, and then another lady cut them in half so that I could chop them easily, and I turned around and I saw some men peeling garlic, and it was like the thinnest slice, like about a centimeter, and I watched them and I saw that they had so much patience, and I realized that that's something is lacking in America, is like patience and dealing with things that take a lot of time.
Thank you.
Tina.
मानस की जात सब एक पहचान हो मानस
How do 15,000 pounds of produce, 2,500 pounds each of lentils and rice, and 12,000 pounds of wheat turn into a vegetarian meal for 60,000 people? Despite its massive scale, Langar at Harmandir Sahib maintains a home-cooked flavor. The experience resembles cooking at a campsite filled with adventure, camaraderie, and purpose. The food is simple and delicious. It is made and served with love and devotion. A look at the cauldron used for cooking reveals the scale of the operation. Cauldrons up to 8 feet wide and 4 feet deep can accommodate 2,000 pounds of cooked food per batch. Giant cauldrons used to feed thousands are welded together from pre-cut steel plates and are fabricated locally in Amritsar.
मेरा नाम है हरजिंदर सिंह जी पंजित्रा जो ग्रह बन गया ਇਹਦਾ ਤਕਰੀਬਨ 10 ਕੁਇੰਟਲ ਦਾਲ ਬਣੀ 10 ਕੁਇੰਟਲ ਦਾਲ ਬਣੀ ਇਹ ਸਟਾਰਟਿੰਗ ਹੈ ਅਜੇ ਚਾਲੂ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ ਅਜੇ ਤਵਾ ਲੱਗਿਆ ਹੈ ਸਾਈਡ ਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਰਾਉਂਡ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਹੈ ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਇਹਦੇ ਉੱਪਰ 3 ਰਾਉਂਡ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਔਰ ਇਹ ਗ੍ਰਹਿ ਤਿਆਰ ਹੋਏਗਾ 8 ਫੁੱਟ ਬਾਈ 4 ਫੁੱਟ 8 ਫੁੱਟ ਬਾਈ 4 ਫੁੱਟ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉੱਪਰੋਂ ਆਇਆ 4 ਫੁੱਟ ਹੋਏਗਾ ਔਰ ਡੈਪਥ ਹੋਏਗੀ 4 ਫੁੱਟ
The most popular lentil dish, known as langar dal, consists of 3 different lentils: chana, urad, and masar. For the chef in charge of the Golden Temple Kitchen, the day begins at night. The first batch of lentils begins just after midnight and is completed just before 5 a.m. Serving begins after 8 a.m. Each batch of lentils cooks in 3 hours. Add washing the lentils, transferring the prepared dish to the langar hall, and cleaning the cauldron afterward. The entire process is finished in 4 to 5 hours. A quicker cooking lentil made from split mung lentils can be prepared in 90 minutes. Additional batches are prepared when unexpectedly large numbers of visitors arrive. With lentils, vegetables, rice, and prashade being made simultaneously, up to 7,000 people can have a meal each hour. The floor of the kitchen sits atop the cooking fires. Because the floors can become hot, running water is used to keep the feet cool. The volume of ingredients is a sight to behold, and even after you hear the numbers, it's still difficult to imagine the scope of the cooking operation. A batch of lentils typically consists of 500 pounds of dried lentils. Lentils are washed and rinsed 3 times in a large pot, in batches of about 150 pounds. The chefs and volunteers cleverly fashion empty canisters of ghee to transfer the washed lentils into the main cooking cauldron. From a tap directed over the cauldron, about 350 gallons of hot water is added. The lentils are transferred to the cauldron. After the lentils have cooked for about 1.5 hours, the other ingredients are added. 60 pounds of onions, 18 pounds each of ginger and garlic, 25 pounds of ghee, 25 pounds of salt, and an equal amount of turmeric and ground spices, 2 pounds of chili powder. There are 18 head chefs, or halvais, at the Golden Temple Kitchen. 2 chefs take 24-hour shifts. The halvai's position is central. It requires mental alertness and physical toughness for 24-hour shifts, in heat or cold, and dedication to the Sikh way of life. Once ready, the steaming dal is scooped out into waiting buckets and carried to the prep kitchen by teams of strong and nimble volunteers. The empty cauldron is immediately rinsed out, preparing for the next batch. Cooking vegetables takes less time. 2 cauldrons are used, one for making the base and the other for cooking the vegetables. The base is made from clarified butter, onions, garlic, and ginger, along with turmeric, salt, and other spices. Sometimes chilies and tomatoes are added. Just before the vegetables are completely cooked, the base is added. The flavor and aroma are absorbed by the vegetables, creating a delicious dish. Rice is also cooked in large batches. Whether it's made of rice or wheat or squash, the sweet dish of the day is eagerly anticipated. On a given day, a Golden Temple Hawaii is not only creating meals for thousands, but he's also happily training volunteers who arrive at Harmandir Sahib, eager to give their time. Anyone can volunteer and expect the gentle guidance of the Hawaii. No task is too small.
एक है पहचान दो मानस की जात सब एक है पहचान
For an unforgettable experience, you will be able to add your love and labor to the meal that will be shared by the Sangha, the community.
The first thing that I did here was PM PST. It was a really different experience because the first time I came here I didn't really know what I was doing and everything was unfamiliar. All the people were staring at me, and today I felt very much part of the crowd and a regular here, and I feel like I'm not just visiting here, but this is just a place that I can go to that I feel at home, and I can do seva with all of the people that I've met here.
तो ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਨੇ ਸਾਰਾ ਅੱਜ ਲੰਗਰ ਦਾ ਸੇਵਾ ਲਈ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਪੂਰੇ ਦਿਨ ਪਹਿਲੀ ਵਾਰੀ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਇਹ ਕੰਮ ਕਿ ਅੱਗੇ
नहीं हर साल एक साल करते हैं
ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹਰ ਸਾਲ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਲੰਗਰ ਸੇਵਾ ਦੀ ਪੂਰੀ ਇੰਤਜ਼ਾਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ ਅੱਛਾ ਕਿਉਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ
वैसे ही खुशी के तौर
ਖੁਸ਼ੀ ਦੇ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ
ਸਕੂਨ ਮਿਲਦਾ ਆ
ਸਕੂਨ ਮਿਲਦਾ ਹੈ ਹਾਂਜੀ ਕਿ ਕਦੋਂ ਆਏ ਸੀ
ਆਪਾਂ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਸਿਰਫ ਇੱਕ ਸਵੇਰ ਤੋਂ ਸ਼ਾਮ ਤੱਕ ਸਵੇਰ ਤੋਂ ਰਾਤ ਤੱਕ
ਸਵੇਰੇ ਅੱਜ ਸਵੇਰੇ ਆਏ ਸੀ
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਮਾਰਨਿੰਗ ਤੋਂ evening।
ਪਰ ਇੰਤਜ਼ਾਮ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਕਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਦੱਸ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਹੋਏਗਾ
ਨਹੀਂ ਮਤਲਬ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਦਿਨ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਆਏ ਸੀ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਮਤਲਬ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲੰਗਰ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਆ ਗਿਆ ਸੀ ਇੱਕ ਦਿਨ ਸੰਗਤ ਸਾਰੀ ਅੱਜ ਆਈ ਹੈ
ਅੱਜ ਆਈ
ਹਾਂਜੀ
ਅੱਛਾ ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਫਿਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰਬੰਧਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਦੱਸ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਹੋਏਗਾ ਕਿ ਆਉਣਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਅੱਛਾ
मानस की जात सब एक है पहचान
सखियो सहेलड़ियो मेरा पीर बन जा सखियो सहेलड़ियो
The simple flatbread called roti or chapati is given an elevated status when served during langar. Called prashade, this gift is treated with respect and forms an integral part of the langar meal. When offered prashade, it is respectfully received with the hands cupped together. The bread combined with lentils forms a complete and nourishing meal. Because on average 120,000 prashade are needed every day for the 60,000 meals that are served, specialized roti making machines are put to good use. Traditionally, all prashade were made by hand, but nowadays these machines create about 80% of the daily prashade. The dough for the prashade is made from fine whole wheat flour and water using mixing machines. It is quite a sight to see the specialized roti making machines. Many of the large gurdwaras have such machines, which vary from place to place. These highly efficient machines can make 10,000 prashade per hour. About 20% are still made by hand by large groups of volunteers. Anyone can join in making prashade by hand. When a person sits down to participate, the hands have already been washed, the head is covered, as it is throughout the Golden Temple complex, and the feet stay tucked in, covered by a protective sheet. An experienced group of volunteers can make 1,200 prashade every hour with ease, using iron stovetops called tava. The volunteers work in teams. From the large mound of dough, a volunteer forms round balls, while the others in the group roll the balls into thin shapes. As a novice, you'll learn to accept imperfections. The system is sustainable because the prashade does not have to be perfect. It allows all to participate. And experienced volunteers nearby are always willing to guide you. On some occasions, a more specialized bread is offered and can only be made by hand because of its delicate texture. It combines wheat flour and chickpea flour, chopped onions, and sometimes other fresh greens like fenugreek leaves and other spices. The uncooked rotis are dusted off and quickly tossed onto the hot tava. Another volunteer skillfully flips each roti after less than a minute of cooking. Careful attention is needed to flip each prashadi at the right moment. After several seconds, the completed prashadi is flipped off the tava and carried to the langar hall. The intense desire to prepare and serve langar is captured by the invocation, Lo langar tapte rahen. May the iron plates of langar stay hot, ready for service.
आनंद पाया मेरी माए सतगुरु मैं पाया सतगुरु ता पाया सहज सेती बन वजिया.
At every Sikh Gurdwara, a blessing of food is offered to all visitors, whether or not they choose to partake in the langar meal. A serving of the sweet delicacy made from wheat, ghee, and sugar, offered to each visitor, is called Karda Prasad. Young and old alike look forward to the delicious blessing available to all. The offering and receiving of Karda Prasad is like a thread that weaves individuals together to form a caring community. Some visitors also choose to line up to contribute to the Karda Prasad experience. In addition to receiving Karda Prasad at no cost, devotees may purchase any amount they choose. Each person is given a receipt and a platter of prasad. Here, an interesting sequence of events unfolds. Carrying the platter along with the receipt, the devotee walks to the area in front of the bridge to the Golden Temple. The contribution is handed over to a special volunteer who uses a kirpan to transfer the entire offering to a larger container. Each offering is added and combined with the prasad that the others have offered. The volunteer then scoops out a small portion of the mixed Karda Prasad, transfers it to a small bowl made of leaves, and hands it back to the donor, who can then take it home or share it with others at the Gurdwara. This common pot of Karda Prasad is served to anyone who walks through the Darbar Sahib, the temple. At intervals, another Sevadar transfers the Karda Prasad to a wide salver, covered with a cloth. Balancing the salver on his head, the Sevadar carries it through the crowd and places it carefully on its platform. Another Sevadar uncovers a portion at a time and distributes it by hand. The offering and receiving of Karda Prasad is a vital part of Sikh hospitality, offered to everyone. Each visitor is served from the same bowl. The prasad is meant to be eaten right away. One can take it home to share with others. This mixing together of the prasad symbolizes the equality of all humanity. The halwais prepare this blessing in a kitchen exclusively devoted to preparing Karda Prasad. Let's see how they ensure that the 240,000 daily visitors are offered this blessing. Karda Prasad is a special confection of equal parts clarified butter, sugar, and whole coarse wheat flour. These three ingredients used in equal parts transform under the halwai's skillful watch. The sugar is dissolved in hot water in a separate cauldron. The flour and clarified butter are roasted in one cauldron, moving the mixture continuously with a long oar-like utensil used for stirring, so it evenly cooks without burning. Rhythmic sounds of scraping signals the dual purpose of cooking the wheat and keeping it from sticking to the pot. The wheat-ghee mixture forms a golden mass. Constant attention is needed to ensure that the prasad cooks evenly. More wheat is added. The ingredients are added not only in stages, but the steps are repeated, all the while stirring and scraping in wide, long sweeps. With alertness and caution, the hot sugar water is poured into the pot. With quick, patient, and persistent movements of the kurpa, the prasad is once again formed into a salad, glistening and entreating. The halwai makes patterns in the prasad during its final stages, continuing the blending of ingredients. The consistency is firmer than pudding, yet more malleable than dough. It is perfect for offering and eating by hand. The prasad is deftly ladled into buckets. The filled buckets are taken to the waiting devotees. The kara prasad is ready to serve with the sangat, the community. The residue of the cooking is cleaned immediately, preparing for the next batch. Another type of kara prasad, made dry, is prepared in a separate cauldron. The final stages of its preparation require quick and firm movements, often done in unison by 2 halwais. This prasad is packaged for later use and often carried by visitors to their families. Through this simple offering, people feel connected.
मतलब इत्थे बड़ी गर्मी भी हैगी है मतलब मुश्किल मतलब आम बंदा तो नहीं कर सकता इत्थे काम
ਇਹ ਜੀ ਸਾਡਾ ਅਭਿਆਸ ਆ
हाँ जी
ਅੱਗੇ ਅੱਗੇ ਰਹਾਂਗੇ
हाँ जी
ਭਾਵੇਂ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਘਬਰਾਹਟ ਹੈ ਗੁਰੂ ਘਰ ਦਾ ਕੰਮ
ਠੀਕ
ਕਰਨਾ ਹੀ ਪੈਣਾ ਜੀ ਤਨੋਂ ਮਨੋਂ ਲਾ ਕੇ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ
हाँ जी
ਲੋਕੀ ਦੋਹਰੇ ਵਾਰ ਤਰਸਦੇ ਆ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਪਹਿਲੀ ਵਾਰ ਤਰਸਦੇ ਆ
हाँ जी हाँ जी
ਨੌਕਰੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਮਿਲਦੀ
ठीक
ਤੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਰਾਮਦਾਸ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਚਰਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਦੋਹਰੀ ਵਾਰ ਲਾ ਕੇ ਫਿਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਕਾ
ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ ਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਕੋਈ ਬਾਣੀ ਵੀ ਬੋਲਦੇ ਹੋ ਆਪਣੇ ਮਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾਂ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਹੈ
ਬਾਣੀ ਪਹਿਲੋਂ ਜੀ
ਪਹਿਲਾਂ
ਬਾਣੀ ਪਹਿਲੋਂ
ਹਾਂਜੀ
ਜੇ ਬਾਣੀ ਬੋਲਾਂਗੇ ਤੇ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਸਹਾਇਤਾ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਡੇ ਕਰੂਗਾ
ਠੀਕ ਠੀਕ
ਤੇ ਜੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਬਾਣੀ ਨਾ ਬੋਲਾਂਗੇ ਤੇ ਮਿਠਾਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਣੀ
ਮਿਠਾਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਣੀ ਤੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹਲਵਾਈਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਟ੍ਰੇਨ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ ਕੋਈ ਔਖਾ ਵੀ मतलब सारे मतलब अच्छी तरह सीख जाते हैं कोई मुश्किल भी आती है
ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹੁਣ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਹਲਵਾਈ ਸਾਰੇ
ਤੁਸੀਂ
ਦਾਲਾਂ ਤੇ
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਹਾਂਜੀ
ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਾਂ ਸਿਖਾਇਆ
ਠੀਕ 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 ਬਹੁਤ ਅੱਛਾ
ਘਰੋਂ ਤੇ ਕੋਈ ਸਿੱਖ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਐਂ ਵੀ ਕਿਸੇ ਕੋ ਗੁਣ ਲਿਆ
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਹਾਂਜੀ ਵੱਡੀ ਹੈ
ਇਹ ਵੱਡੀ ਵੀ ਆ ਤੇ ਦਿਮਾਗ ਨਾਲ ਵੀ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਨਾ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਇੰਨੇ ਦਾਲਾਂ ਦਾ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਨਾ ਮੈਂ 4 ਸਾਲ ਜਹੇਦਾਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਲੰਗਰ ਦਾ ਵੀ
ਅੱਛਾ ਜੀ
ਜੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਥੱਲੇ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਤੱਕ ਨੌਲੇਜ ਹੀ
ਹਾਂਜੀ
ਤੇ ਇੰਨਾ ਦਾਲ ਫੁਲਕਾ ਲੱਗਣਾ ਇੰਨਾ ਕੋਈ ਮਿਰਚ ਨਾ
ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਹਾਂਜੀ
ਉਸ ਹਿਸਾਬ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਬਣਾਉਂਦੇ ਰਹੇ
ਹਾਂਜੀ
ਇਹ ਲਿਖੇ ਦੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਹੁੰਦੀ
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਹਾਂਜੀ
ਇਹ ਸਿਰਫ ਆਪਣਾ ਦਿਮਾਗ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ
ਹਾਂਜੀ
ਕਿਉਂ ਗੁਰੂ ਘਰ ਦੀਆਂ ਮੈਂ ਬਣਾ ਕੇ ਛੁੱਟੀ ਜਾਈਏ
ਹਾਂਜੀ
ਉਹਦਾ
ਉਹ ਠੀਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਹਾਂਜੀ ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਠੀਕ
ਦੋਹਰੇ ਬਣਾਉਣੇ ਠੀਕ ਹੈ
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਠੀਕ
बरसे मेघ सखी
Nature ensures that for each action we take, some sort of residue is left behind. In Sikh thought, the residue of the mind is cleansed by Simran, by meditating on truth. In equally high regard is the cleansing and caring of the world around us. The Langar practice at Sri Harmandir Sahib offers this opportunity for volunteers who are eager to give their time. Rather than reserved to the back rooms or only during the middle of the night, the cleaning seva at Sri Harmandir Sahib is done all day long and everyone can participate. The Golden Temple Community Kitchen model is remarkably sustainable and eco-friendly because of the minimal residue it produces. Even with minimal waste, the residue must be removed. After chopping vegetables, brooms are brought out and the skins of the vegetables are swept up and discarded or used as fodder. The floor is efficiently washed and dried, ready for the next group. Crumbs and soot from the hot tavas where thousands of prasade are formed and cooked are regularly brushed away. Of more than 100,000 prasade made daily, about 5% are left uneaten. What happens with the leftovers? They're not wasted. Above the langar hall on a sunny rooftop near the solar panels, the uneaten prasade are spread out to dry in the sun. These dried rotis are auctioned off. Farmers use them to enhance the diet of their livestock. The water buffalo enjoy the buttery rotis. Unfinished morsels on the dishes and spoons are handled in a unique way. Each plate, bowl, and spoon is carried from the langar hall to the volunteer group. Dirty dishes do not sit unattended. Each plate is swiftly handed down a row where a bucket awaits. The contents disappear into a metal tub by deftly shaking or clapping the plates together. Most people finish all of their food. The remaining bits of food and water are thrown out. A pair of strong volunteers heft the tub full of plates, quickly carry them to the first washing station, where they're shaken loose into the water. A flurry of hands seek out one plate at a time, wiping each one with cleaning powder. As a newcomer, you can wordlessly join in, observe, then pick up a plate and join your neighbor in meditation by motion. The langar hall is also cleaned each half hour, with special group cleaning done daily. The use of nature's gifts are also integrated into the experience. The tall native grasses growing along the riverbank are used to make sustainable brooms to sweep the floors. Anyone can learn to make a broom and participate in the cleaning seva. The entire parikrama, the gorgeous marble walkway, is also cleaned daily. With the many opportunities to volunteer for cleaning the Golden Temple, eager hands are not left idle. Some people come daily to serve. Some come for a few hours. For others, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Human cooperation and effort, coupled with a spirit of charikala, unbounded optimism, make the work go smoothly. Above the din, the melodies of kirtan resonate, powering the efforts of the Sangha. The washing of a dish becomes a practice in humility. It helps shed the ego and open the heart.
My group went and washed the dishes after we had some amazing chai, and there's a great sense of calmness. It feels like you're tapping into the human potential. Like if everyone chips in a little, the job will get done. Kind of think about how you're a part of the bigger picture and let your thought flow like the waves within the washing area. It's musical too, because once the big pans start coming in, the giant dishes, you hear clang, 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 but it's still peaceful and it's special in another way because you get to feel kind of the energy flowing around you. Best thing is it feels like, the name Amritsar, so city of like nectar. You feel that flow of like inner energy and nectar going through you as you're walking around the whole complex. So that was a really great feeling. The throngs of people are kind of also an embodiment of that flow.
राज में राज जोग में जोगी राज में राज जोग में जोगी राज में राज.
Where did this idea of sharing langar while seated in rows come from? What is the history behind this beautiful place? In the 16th century, the first Sikh Guru, Guru Nanak, based the Sikh faith on the universality of all creation and the value of physical actions as a vehicle for the spiritual. The concept of sharing food is an integral part of the Sikh lifestyle. Indeed, each Gurdwara, Sikh temple, anywhere in the world offers free langar meals. The third Guru, Amar Das Sahib, formalized the institution of langar. And with a view to create a central space for the Sikhs, conceptualized the excavation of the holy tank, called Sarovar, that now surrounds the Sri Harmandir Sahib. In 1577, the fourth Guru, Guru Ram Das Sahib, oversaw the completion of the Sarovar. The fifth Guru, Arjan Sahib, designed the architecture and directly supervised the construction of Sri Harmandir Sahib. To demonstrate the unity of people of all faiths, in 1588, Guru Arjan Sahib had the foundation laid by a respected Muslim saint. Throughout its history of upholding the principle of equality among all, Sikhism has rankled the ire of certain powers to be. As a result, over the years, Sri Harmandir Sahib has suffered attacks, causing considerable damage. However, this sacred space was always rebuilt, stronger than before, with devotion and enthusiasm reflecting the optimistic and robust Sangat. In the 19th century, Maharaja Ranjit Singh, the Sikh ruler of the time, gave the Gurdwara its distinctive gold look. In 1999, Sri Harmandir Sahib was re-gilded.
तन तन हमारे पाग कर आया पेड़ मेरा कर आया पेड़ मेरा.
Today's challenges of creating a sustainable community system could be addressed by studying the best practices of Sri Harmandir Sahib's Guru Ka Langar. Some of these best practices include creating a beautiful space that draws people in, providing open and fluid times for participation, equally accepting both large contributions and small, being free from sole reliance on large donors by empowering each individual to give, allowing people from all walks of life to participate and to express their creativity with minimal restrictions, welcoming people of all abilities to participate together. Accepting a certain amount of disorder, demonstrating versatility by incorporating new technologies like the roti machines, the solar panels, and the filtration systems for the pond and the kitchens, while maintaining traditional practices. Creating a place for contemplation and meditation.
हर हरा स्वामी सुखगामी
And surrounding the space with uplifting music to help create a balance between calmness and activity, and to serve as a reminder of our universal nature.
ਰਸ ਕਹਣਾ ਅਨੰਦ ਮੰਗਣ ਰਸ ਕਹਣਾ ਅਨੰਦ ਮੰਗਣ ਰਸ ਕਹਣਾ ਅਨੰਦ ਮੰਗਣ ਰਸ ਕਹਣਾ ਤਨ ਤਨ ਹਮਾਰੇ ਭਾਗ ਕਰ ਆਇਆ ਪਿੰਡ ਮੇਰਾ ਕਰ ਆਇਆ ਪਿੰਡ ਮੇਰਾ ਤਨ ਤਨ ਹਮਾਰੇ ਭਾਗ ਕਰ ਆਇਆ ਪਿੰਡ ਮੇਰਾ ਕਰ ਆਇਆ ਪਿੰਡ ਮੇਰਾ ਕਰ ਆਇਆ ਪਿੰਡ ਮੇਰਾ ਕਰ ਆਇਆ ਪਿੰਡ ਮੇਰਾ
What does the title, A Table for 60,000, signify? Well, the title could very well be A Table for 100,000. When we started filming A Table for 60,000, that's how many meals were served every day. By the time we finished filming it, it expanded to 100,000 and continues to expand. And a fundamental part of Langar is Pangat and Sangat. Sangat are the people, and Pangat represents the table. There may not literally be a table, but there is the practice of sitting in a Pangat in a row, all persons, regardless of background, coming together to sit at the table. That's a powerful image. It's designed to check one's ego, to bring you closer to the truth, closer to Ik Onkar, to oneness. Sitting on the floor is a way of humbling yourself. You sit next to whomever comes in at the same time you do. You cast aside class, status, and any differences, and instead you create a sense of equality and universal brother and sisterhood. Can you summarize the best practices that you found? Okay. All combined, these practices create an atmosphere that attracts a continuous stream of dedicated volunteers. Each of the practices is needed to maintain this level of focus and commitment. So I'll try to summarize it. Having a clean and pleasant space, a welcoming atmosphere, music that calms the mind and soothes the soul, all set the mood for cooperative work. Having an open schedule attracts volunteers. While at Harmandir Sahib, we met several families who had come on the bus from their villages in the wee hours of the morning just to do a few hours of seva and then return back to their villages to continue their day. In Harmandir Sahib, the administration provides these buses that go around to the villages in the morning for people to come and volunteer, do seva. And if a family can come together, it makes volunteering a social event and provides an opportunity for children to learn the lessons of seva. Be okay with everything not being perfect. Not everyone peels garlic the same way. So that flexibility is important. Make it easy to let someone donate to your cause. Even small amounts lets them feel vested in the process. Really, they are the heart and soul of the operation. Be flexible. There's a common Punjabi term, jugad. I hear that jugad is now in the Oxford English Dictionary. It's a way of making do with what's at hand, being inventive. It's also a mindset, like thinking outside the box. When the pandemic started, essential workers had to wear a mask. But the standard mask didn't fit properly on every face, especially those with a beard and a turban. Some were faced with the dilemma how to continue to work without changing their appearance. But those with the mindset of thinking differently, of jugad, could envision a solution, create a mask that does fit, deliver it, donate it to those who need it. This is what happened when the Sikh Coalition partnered with Direct Relief. They helped Sikh doctors secure specially fitted masks to fit over their beards and accommodate their turbans so they could continue doing their essential work. What happens to the restaurants? Won't they lose money if people can just get free food nearby? Well, that's a good question. You would think that if there's free food on one corner, that people would flock there and avoid a place nearby where they'd have to pay for food. But what we found out through discussions with restaurant owners around the Harmandir Sahib is that they felt they were successful because of the existence of Harmandir Sahib. Langar is not just a time of having a meal together. It's different from a restaurant where people gather for socialization, for parties, or to try new dishes. There's a larger purpose to Langar, and it's not just an eating establishment. So the two complement one another. Can these efforts be replicated outside of a Gurdwara, outside of a Sikh community? This is a key question. We tried to answer it by compiling a list of best practices of Langar. The success of Langar hinges on the mindset of Ik Onkar, of seeing oneself in everyone, of setting aside one's ego. So along with the 10 best practices, this universal outlook is primary, which means that if those who are willing to serve are also willing to sit and be served, only then would there be a chance of success. Langar is a concrete, visible way to overcome the tendency for people to separate one another according to their status or other artificial barriers. The tradition of Langar is relevant to communities everywhere, especially for addressing hunger. Not only hunger for food, but hunger for connection. The practice of Langar creates opportunities to unite people for the common good. I've certainly come a long way in understanding the significance of that handful of prasad that I received so long ago. Through our various educational projects, Jasprit and I have tried to spread the beautiful message of Sikhi. Being a Sikh, a constant learner, means continually striving to develop as a universal person. I'm encouraged to see all the efforts of the Sikh community here and abroad who are showcasing and sharing Sikh culture in a modern light through music, song, film, spoken word, podcasts, visual arts, and many other arenas. I'm grateful to Vicky Singh of Sikhlens and to Dean Gail Stearns of the Fish Interfaith Center at Chapman University for finding a safe way to honor the legacies of Guru Gobind Singh Ji during this new year of Vaisakhi. Coming together to celebrate Vaisakhi reminds us to greet each day with renewed commitment, to face each morning with confidence to overcome obstacles, to remember to treat each person with dignity, and to understand that service to others is a gift to oneself, a gift of deep peace. I'd like to close with a prayer. Nanak naam chardi kala, tere bhane sarbat tabala. May we be filled with unbounded optimism and work towards the well-being of everyone. Sat Shri Akal.